I can't even believe that there's this many people here. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. You know, this is crazy. So, you know, I know everybody's busy. So again, thank you. I hope you guys learned some things tonight. I'm gonna just talk a little bit about myself and Fake Shore Drive, and then I'll open it up to Q&A because I'm sure you guys have some questions. You might want to ask me a thing or two. I don't know. But you know, first and foremost, I would guess most people in the room are familiar with Fake Shore Drive, but for those who are not, it is a music company. I say that because it started off as a music blog in October of 2007, so it's almost 8 years old. Which in music years, it feels like dog years, so it feels like I've been doing this for 25 years at this point. It's, you know, it's crazy, it wears on you. But you know, we started it in '07. There weren't many music blogs. There definitely weren't really any at all as far as hip hop in Chicago. And at the time, I was going to events and parties and concerts. And unless you were one of the big four artists, you were getting no national coverage. So unless you were Kanye or Lupe or Twista or Common, you were getting no national recognition on music blogs. And music blogs were still a fairly new concept at the time, right? And it was weird to me that there was all this great, you know, all these great things happening in Chicago, but nobody was covering it. And, you know, this was around the time the Cool Kids really kind of started popping. And then like Kid Sister was very popular. Early days of the Treaty Crew, so like Mano and Holt. And then like you had the street guys, like Bump J and some other people like that. And of course, the bigger name artists, but they were good. And I found it odd that these people weren't getting any national coverage. So, you know, they say every good business, you know, you find a problem and you solve it. And I saw that as a problem at the time, that there was all this great stuff happening and nobody really cared. So I just started it on a whim one day, no connections, never had any journalistic training, didn't take it in college. I went to college, I didn't major in it. I just started doing it, you know, and I was reading other blogs and I noticed that they weren't doing anything that I couldn't do. They weren't any more knowledgeable than myself. You know, I've been a longtime fan of hip hop since the 80s. I'm not trying to date myself. I'm not super old, but I'm not super young either. But I was around for Public Enemy and NWA and you know, when it was actually happening. I was very young, but I remember it. And I'd always wanted to work in the music business in some capacity. But it's not an easy business to get into, as I'm sure most of you in the room probably know, if you're aspiring musicians, producers, writers, promoters, whatever. It's not an easy field to break into. So, you know, my goal was to work in the music business behind the scenes. I never had any kind of, you know, I never wanted to be an artist. I never wanted to be a producer. I was more drawn to the executives. I always thought the executives were the badasses, you know. The Suge Knights, the Master P's, the Diddy's, Baby, you know, all the guys that you know, Irv Gotti, all the people that worked at the various labels, those are who I looked up to. And I think people kind of thought that was crazy at the time, because everybody wants to be the artist, everybody wants to be the star, everybody wants the spotlight. But I was like, you know what? It seems to me a lot of the guys that have the most longevity and are making the most money are the people in the background. And so that's why I was kind of drawn to that. But you know, in college, I went to Indiana University, and I minored in music just because I was taking so many music classes. I didn't plan to turn it into a minor, but I took so many classes that it became a minor, and so I had some kind of credibility. And I used to, you know, I wanted to also be an A&R. I figured that would be a good start, was to, you know, maybe get my foot in the door as an A&R. And at the time, you know, this is like 03, 04, labels there was still a ton of labels, and you could still get an industry job. Now it's a lot more difficult to find, you know, an industry job. But at the time, it was like, okay, you know, there's really, you know, some money to be made in this. And email wasn't like it was. You couldn't just hit up somebody on Twitter. You couldn't just find somebody's email address on a website or their Twitter or their Instagram. You had to like fax your resume to every label, and that's what I would do. I would go to Kinko's and print up like 20 copies of my resume and fax it to every single record label that was out there. And I used to look on the back of the CD. I would go buy CDs and look on the back, and it would say, you know, to fax, to contact Jive or whatever record label. And I would send my and I never heard back one time. It was like an abyss. You don't know if anybody ever looked at it. I'm guessing they probably just had an intern throwing them away, because it was almost impossible to even get an internship, because, you know, those were people that were connected. Those were people that lived in New York or LA. But being in the Midwest, it was difficult. You couldn't just, you know, find something that was close. So my first break into the music industry was before my senior year. I got an internship at a radio station in Chicago called Q101. It's now, it's defunct now, but are you guys familiar with Q101? You remember that? It was an alternative rock station, and I'm not into alternative rock. I've never been into alternative rock. I appreciate it, of course, but it was never, like, you know, my thing. But it was a foot in. It was a way to get in and to learn. And, you know, it was free. I worked at the Merchandise Mart. I didn't get paid. And, you know, I was the first one there, last one to leave. And, you know, eventually it worked out. I hustled my way through, and I was able to let the people on air, they would give us a little bit of on-air time. Every now and again, they would clown us. They would call us, like, the interns. And they would let us, you know, get on and do little segments here and there. And I used to, you know, I had to get sandwiches for Mancow. I don't know if you remember Mancow. He was a jerk, but, you know, he you know, this is how I kind of learned the ropes. And I started to see how things worked, and I loved radio, so I thought maybe radio would be the way in. And with that experience, I went back to college for my senior year, and I got a radio show. I got a morning show on the Indiana University radio network, and it was like a morning show. It was cool. You know, we thought it was funny. It probably was not funny. You know, we had, like, local rappers that were students come on and you know, do DJ or rap, and, you know, we were just mimicking what we saw on Hot 97 and trying to be cool, trying to be funny. But we ended up getting we got fired because people were cussing. We had people call in and they were like, "You can't do that," and it just kind of sucked because we couldn't play. We had to play edited music, and trying to find an edit of something in, like, 2003 was impossible. It's a lot easier now, but back then you kind of had to, you know, edit yourself, and the equipment was long story. But it didn't last long. But I still loved radio, and I tried to get a job at the station or any of the stations like it, and I couldn't. You know, I was still calling record labels. Nobody was calling back. I was trying to figure out anything. I'm like, dude, I don't want to go do some other job that I hate. But, you know, my parents are like, we just, you know, you're done with college, you got to get out, and you got to find a job, like, the game's over. Like, you know, this music thing probably isn't going to go. You don't play any instruments, you're not an artist. Like, you're crazy. Like, we know you like it, and it's a cool hobby, but, like, you know, you got to get real. So I ended up taking a job in advertising sales. And it was a good job. My office was right down the street here on Michigan Avenue. It was good. It paid well. I had nice benefits. You had to wear a suit to work every day. You know, it was cool, and it paid my rent, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. It was not in my heart. And I did not see myself doing that forever. So I wouldn't say I was miserable, but I definitely wasn't happy with where I was. And I knew that I had it in me, and I was like, you know what? I really still want to work in the music business. How do I do it? You know, I'm in Chicago. The labels aren't here. There's radio people that work for labels here, but they're fighting for their jobs. So I'm not going to get a label job. So why don't I just start writing about the music that's happening here? And one day I came up with the name Fake Shore Drive. It just popped in my head randomly, and you know, it turned out to be a blessing. I'm not even going to say it was a curse, it was a blessing, because still to this day people ask me what it means. It's a very controversial name, even though it was not meant, it was just strictly a play on words because of Lakeshore Drive, obviously, and so people would remember it. So still to this day people ask, Fake Shore Drive, what does it mean? Are you saying this is fake? Are we fake? This and that? And it was never the case, but you know, it was just a good name, and we slowly but surely, you know, at the time it was just me. Now we have a staff of two, Ty, Howard, who's over there. I'm not going to point him out, but if you know who he is, you can find him later. But now we have a small staff, but at the time it was just myself. And I was, you know, I had to go to my corporate job every morning, but I was out every night. You know, I don't go out like I do anymore, but back then I would go out every night. And I printed up a stack of business cards. There was like a website you could print up like 1,000 business cards for $200 or something like that. Maybe even it was like $50, something like that. And I would go to every single event every night and pass out my card so people would, you know, start to see what it was. And at first people thought I was crazy because this is '07 and people are like, you want me to give you music to give away for free? And I'm like, no, that's not really how it is. But if you have a video or you have some content or you have news, we're happy to write about you. So just trying to explain the concept at the time was very foreign because, you know, there were blogs that came along, you know, right around that same time, Go Where Hip Hop, who's still around, Ruby Hornet, who's now evolved into a record label, but they were around at the time. So it was very, you know, we were all kind of pioneers because nobody really believed in what we were doing. I think people kind of thought we were crazy. Then around, you know, MySpace was hot around that time. So then, you know, we started meeting people. I think the first person, you guys aren't going to believe this if you know who this person is, but the first person to ever embrace Fake Short Drive from the artist standpoint was Bump J. You guys know who Bump J is? Free Bump J. He's in jail on bank robbery charges right now. But he'll be out soon. And he was the first person that ever reached out to us like, I get what you guys are doing. It was Bump and his brother Shake. And they got it. They started sending us exclusives. And then they started just introducing us to people. They were like, oh, you want to interview No ID? Cool. Here's his phone number. Call him. Oh, you want to meet the LEP Bogus Boys? Here's their number. And then, you know, you meet those people, and they introduce you to Twista, who introduces you to Traxter, and then the next thing you know, you're kind of like in it. And it was still a work in progress because didn't know anybody, didn't have any connections, had no money, you know, and I was still going to work every day. So I was like living a double life. So during the day, I was wearing a suit and sitting behind a desk and running the blog on the side. It was Fox. It was the company I worked for. So I secretly ran Fake Short Drive from a News Corp, a company down the street. I would do it when you know, on the side when my bosses weren't looking. And then it started getting it got a little too crazy. My boss, the reader did a profile on me, and this was like in late '08, early '09. They gave me like a big, it was the first press that anybody had ever written on Fake Short Drive. They took a big picture of it. I never had like a professional picture taken of me. And it was my picture like front of the music section or the arts and culture section. And then that next morning after it came out, my boss's phone was like ringing off the hook. And people at different agencies in town were calling. They were like, yo, this guy that works for you? This guy works for you. Like, why? What does he do? And my boss called me in the office. He's like, shut your door. Shut my door. And I was like, I thought he was going to fire me. Like, I thought it was over. I thought it was curtains at that point. But he was like, no, I think this is really cool. You know, I think this is great. Don't worry about it. And then things started getting kind of weird as the site continued to take off. We would go to meetings. Like at Starcom as an agency, we would go to meetings. And the people there that were familiar with it, they would want to talk about Fake Short Drive and not the stuff that we were selling. So we would go to the meetings, and they'd be like, yeah, that's cool, but what's up with Fake Short Drive, man? How do I get some tickets to one of these shows? Da 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 da. And it just started getting too crazy, and you know, I worked because I couldn't, you know, we weren't making enough money at the time where I could do it full time. I couldn't quit, and you know, we were working our way up, and then eventually, you know, it became like, you know, MTV would call. They'd be like, hey, we need you to come to New York. Can you come to New York tomorrow? And I'd be like, I really can't come to New York tomorrow because I got to work, and I can't really ask for the day off because they know what it's for, and I'm already in trouble. They're on my ass. You know, they're not happy with, you know, my performance. They think I just can't do it. And I was miserable, and you know, eventually she was my girlfriend at the time. She's now my wife. She was like, you know what? You're close. You're not where you want to be. But if you fail, you should go. If you fail, I got you. I'll make sure that we're taken care of. But you just got to do it, because if you don't do it now, we don't have any kids. But if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. And so man, I did it, but I had to like get the courage to do it because it was very scary. You know, it's very much the unknown is going and kind of stepping out with no, you know, safety net to do something. And my parents tried to talk me out of it. A lot of my friends tried to talk me out of it. They're like, "You're crazy! Like, what are you thinking? Like, why would you give up this job to do this? It's unsure. You don't know." And then, you know, my wife, you know, she pushed me to do it. She was like, "Okay, you got to do it. I'm sick of listening to you complain. Go." And then I did it, and you know, never looked back. And so it's been, you know, full time ever since. It's been 4 years now, you know, and we've grown Big Short Drive into doing more than just blog. You know, the blog was the vehicle that got us here, but now we do events, we do concerts. We can come and speak at Apple, which is great. Thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it. But it was, you know, it was a slow process, and it didn't happen overnight. And I think that's one thing that I stress to young people and people that are trying to get in the music business is that it doesn't happen overnight. And there's no cheat code. There's no way that you can, you know, skip steps. And yeah, you might have some initial success overnight or whatever, but it, you know, it just doesn't happen like that. And you know, thankfully with that, we've been able to partner up with great brands like Red Bull. We're just signing on for our 4th year with them doing concerts. And we've done concerts with them at South by. We got stuff coming up with them in LA and Austin. And you know, we've been able to work with brands like Hennessy and Virgin and who else? Heineken, Adidas. We just got a new mix show on Shade 45. I don't know if you guys have heard about that. We're curating it. My man Ron Stewart's in the back. He helped kind of make that play, and then ties the DJ. So we, you know, we're trying to do a lot of things, and it's just it started off as a Chicago move, you know, and it was like, okay, we just want to put on for Chicago, the city, but now it's like we want to do that for the whole Midwest, because in my personal opinion, the Midwest is the most underserved region in all of music, and so that's kind of was the goal with the radio show on Shade 45, which is on Sirius XM, which is Eminem's station. Was like, look, there's a lot of talent here, but a lot of people on the coast don't want to give us a chance, you know what I mean? And there's no reason why a lot of the artists in Chicago aren't getting any any national play. I mean, you look at the Shade 45 lineup, you know, DJ Drama has a show in Atlanta, the LA Leakers have a show in LA, like, where's the Midwest love? And so thankfully they kind of saw the vision on that, and they believed in us enough to find great DJs from around the different markets to curate and show what the talent is in their respective cities. Because it's hard. It's not an easy thing. And you know, it's Fake Short Drive is an artist-friendly website, and we want to, you know, help people to say, hey, look, we did this. We were able to create this platform, and we've had some success. A lot of the artists that we wrote about early on have kind of taken it to crazy heights, whether it be Chance the Rapper or Chief Keef or King Louie or Little Durk or Vic Mensa or whoever. You know, we were there in the early days and definitely instrumental in breaking them. And so, you know, for the future, we're just, you know, trying to, you know, build this and make it just not live online, where we can keep doing events and keep promoting good artists and good art and helping people that, you know, aren't necessarily heard be heard. It's still a long journey, and I kind of think this is the beginning for a lot of people, and I think a lot of great minds, you know, have come out of the Chicago scene over the past, you know, 7-8 years since we've been in business. And I can't say that we have I can say we've helped with that. You know, it's not our all doing, of course not, but you know, it's nice to have this kind of platform here for people to learn and use it to their advantage. So that being said, that's just kind of my pitch, my story. I wanted to open up to kind of have an open dialogue and take some questions, because I feel like, you know, I want to know what you guys want to know. I want to know your thoughts on the site, how we can improve, or just what you think, and I'm happy to answer any questions and talk to, you know, whoever. So, who wants to kick it off?
If you guys want to throw your hand in the air, myself or Jennifer, we've got a microphone.
Anybody, don't be shy, seriously.
Not at all. Microphones are really fun to use.
Hold on, there's a mic coming your way, so.
What sort of mistakes might you have made early on for the front side?
I would say, you know, everything happens for a reason, but I definitely would have quit my job sooner to pursue it full time. But it's good to have a safety net, whether that be your parents, whether that be a significant other, But I wish I would have been able to focus on that full time, because who knows where it would be now. Like I said, I've just been doing this full time for 4 years, and it would have been definitely. You have to build a good team as well. I have a great team. I have good people around, loyal people. It would have been to try to build a team a little earlier on, and not try to take on as much myself, because you can't do it on your own, and you can't do it alone. Nobody can do it alone. So definitely put a good team together, and follow your dreams. I mean, start when you're young. I was 26 when I started Fake Short Drive, which is not old in the music industry, but it's not super young, because that technology wasn't around at the time. Twitter was like brand new. Facebook had been out for like a year, 2 years. YouTube, same thing. So now I feel like it's a lot easier, and there's a lot more tools in place for people to kind of do these type of ventures and do them, easier. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Grace Smith. I'm
Hey, hey.
a Chicago sports blog called ballandroy.com. Just want to know from the blogger's perspective, how do you generate site traffic, considering there's so many blogs nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, now it's it's obviously a lot more difficult, because there's so many sites competing, and at the time, there wasn't a big digital presence from sites like Complex or Noisy or Fader, which are great, and they do great content. But when Fake Short Drive first started, it was all like indie blogs. It was all very young. It was a new technology, and I think once the bigger platforms kind of saw that, they're like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. Forget print. They changed their strategy, as opposed to trying to do the print thing and fight that battle. They started focusing all their dollars and talent in the digital realm. So now it's a lot more difficult starting a blog, but I can give you this advice: find a fan base and cater to them. Find a problem and try to solve that. I think who knows if I'd be sitting here right now if I would have just wanted to start a blog that covered everything in the country. I remember when I started Fake Short Drive, and it was just Chicago. People were like, you're crazy. You're not going to last. Nobody cares that much about Chicago. There's not enough talent in Chicago to make it last. This is not feasible, right? But at the same time, I'm like, well, everybody's covering the same stuff nationally. You go to the top blogs, and they all look the same. It's the same content. It's Drake, it's Future. But I was like, we need to cover other people, and that was a blessing for us. And it took us longer, and still we don't get the traffic that these other sites get, and we'll never get the traffic that these sites get, and that's fine, because we have a built-in fan base, and we're always growing. But with that, we've been able to kind of be the dominant voice, in the city and in the region, and we've had a lot of great opportunity come because of that. So I would say, find a niche, find something that somebody else isn't doing, because if you're just trying to go after general market sports blog, their question was about a sports blog. There's so many of those, and the big companies are throwing so much money at them. It's hard to compete being a new journalist. Trying to compete with guys that used to write for ESPN or the Chicago Tribune or whatever. I mean, they have that experience, they have that following. So find a niche and find unique ways to cover the stories that are out there. It's a good start.
Front row to your right.
Hi, how are you? My
Hey.
name is Darian.
What's
I
up?
just was wondering, how did you go about locking in those partnerships? Was it a situation where you were selling yourself, like this is who we are, this is who we represent? Do you want to be a part of that, or did they approach you and want to be a part of what you were?
I think it varies on a case-by-case basis. Early on we had different. At first it was like you'd have an agency reach out to you. One of the first ones that we did was with Heineken. We did a J. Cole. No, we did a Pusha T and a Wale event, right? And they reached out to us. And we're like, hey, we want you to help kind of put this together. We have X amount of invites for you, and we'll give you a VIP section. And that way, we kind of learn. And then after you do one little one like that, it wasn't like it was a Fake Short Drive event, but we definitely helped in the promotion of it. And then the next time, people come and they might have some more money for you, and they might have, more creative control. The first big one, the first group to really kind of believe in us was Red Bull, for sure, with their Sound Select program, which, we do concerts every few months with them. We just did one last week with Ja Rule and Ty Money and The Outfit, which is a group from Texas. And it started off small with them, and we came in, and they came to us. They reached out and were like, hey, we're doing this, we're launching this new program, which we want to promote young artists and have different curators in every city. And we were one of the first 3 cities, and we were one of the first 2 or 3 curators in Chicago at the time. So we were the only people in the urban space doing that, where they would say, okay, we're going to pay you to do this, we're going to give you a budget, and you guys can do whatever you want. Yeah, you have, parameters that you have to follow, but the thing with that is, under promise and over deliver, always. Be the best. Like, they gave us an opportunity, and with that we said, you know what, we're going to be the best curator, not only in Chicago, but we're going to be the best in the nation. And, I don't want to say that we're the best in the nation. However, we're one of the only people that have been doing this for 4 years, and, they had us out, and now we're doing events in other places. So, when somebody gives you an opportunity, and that's one of the things that I like to stress the most, is when somebody gives you an opportunity, I don't care how big or how small, but if it's something that can advance you and advance your brand, do it, don't half-ass it. Kill it. Make everybody in the company that's there and that sees you go, this guy, these guys, their crew, the artists that they picked, everything was spot on, everything was great. They were easy to work with, they were professional, they were there early, they were the first people there, they were the last to leave. And they care about this, they're competitive, they want to put on the best events. And I think that's been from day one, is always trying to be the best and always trying to, leave your mark. And one of the things that I've noticed, and what I've always been, what sucks about the music industry, is that a lot of people are too cool. Especially in the hip hop space. Everybody, oh, I'm too cool, I can't do that, I can't step out of my cool zone, I can't do this or look goofy. But screw that. Like, what do you want to, like, you want to be cool, or do you want a career? And that's how you got to look at it, And I think the people that I've seen have the most success, and the people that I look up to, are the people that take it dead serious and aren't after just the quick dollar, the quick buck. They see this as a career. Yeah, you may not get rich super fast, but do you want this to be a career, or do you just want to be like popping for a couple years? So I kind of took a turn on that one, but I hope that answered it. I'm sorry.
Another question, front row to your left.
What's up? My name is Justin. First, I just want to say I greatly appreciate I
greatly
appreciate what you do for the Detroit music scene.
Are you from Detroit?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
But a question that I had was, I know these days as a vlogger, you probably get like thousands of emails every day from musicians all over. What are some things that struck you in the past as a fan that strike you now that you're making this into a career from artists?
Can everybody hear that? Did everybody hear his question? Okay. So, what we look for, and what I tell every artist that comes up, and how do we get a post? How do we get it on Fake Shore Drive? How do we become famous? How do we do this? How do we do that? And the number one thing, the answer that I give every aspiring artist, is build your fan base. I know it's not simple, it's not easy, and it's not, doesn't happen overnight. But early on, two kids ran into my office one day. I locked the door now, but at the time, the door was unlocked, and the guys just kind of busted in. They're like, Andrew. I think Ty was there, I think. But they ran in. They were like, okay, we're gonna be rappers. Can you make us famous? And I'm like, well, that's not what we. Number one, that's not what we do. Number two, like, what do you mean? Can you make us famous? Like, what do you have? They're like, yeah, we got one song on SoundCloud. I go, okay, well, that's great. It's a good start, but before you run into somebody's office, you should, number one, knock. Number two, have a game plan before you step to somebody, and say, do this for me, do X for me. Have it together. And I was talking to them, and their thing was, I've still never heard anything like this. I was like, do you guys have a mixtape coming? They're like, no, man. our goal is we're gonna record 3 songs, shoot 3 videos, and then get a $3 million deal like ASAP Rocky. Like, what do you mean? Like that? You see how that's how ridiculous people think. They think that $1 million deals are things that are just handed out, and they're just dessert. No, I say that to say, build your fan base. You know, when the labels came here in 2012, what I call the Great Chicago Gold Rush, after Chief Keef blew up, and every record label was calling me, you know, who can we get? Who's in Chicago that's hot? Who sounds like Chief Keef? Who sounds like Little Dirk? Who can we get? Who can we get? Who can we get? And I say, you know, these guys are hot, they're great, but there's also some artists that aren't drill that are selling out venues already. Like Chance, the rapper, everybody knows Chance now. At the time, he was selling out Reggie's and didn't even have a mixtape out of it. You know what I mean? Rocky Fresh was another one. He wasn't on MMG at the time, and he was selling out venues, but they weren't interested in them, but they had fan bases. And you see how some of these guys have gone on to become monsters on the tour circuit and merchandising circuit is because they had real fans. Real fans. And building a real fan base, it may not start big. It may not be 300 people to fill Reggie's. It might be, you know, 20 people, might be 5. But build on that and have them help you spread your message. You know, if you're young, utilize your your youthfulness, utilize your connection of young people around you. Because as you get older, your immediate network dries up, right? When you're 18, you have access to so many people. You have access to your high school. You have access to all these people that you still talk to on a daily basis on social networks. As people get older, they get out of college, yeah, they still kind of have that. Then people grow up, they buy houses, they have kids, they got other shit to worry about. They're not necessarily worried about what mixtape's coming out this week. So, you know, start grassroots, and then build from there, and make the blogs come to you. Because there's nothing that a blogger hates more than to be late on something. And if they're late on something, it drives them insane. Because now you've noticed the rat race is kind of like, okay, who can we find that's first? Who can we break so we can attach ourselves to that person and say that we broke them? That's what people are looking for. But if you break yourself and you don't rely on record labels, and you don't rely on, you know, DJs or whatever, that gives you all the power and longevity, in my opinion. What works for one person doesn't work for everybody else, but that's some advice.
Another question, 4th row to your left.
My name's Tavares. I'm from Cleveland.
Hey.
My question was, how hard was it expanding from just Chicago, and how did you get the world to pay attention?
I'm sorry, what?
How did you get the world to pay attention, like state attention?
You know, it was, you know, relationships are also very important. And, you know, from early on, we let people know that we're not people that, we're not trying to use you, we're not trying to come up off your name, we want to work together with you. And one thing that I've seen damaging to a lot of people in the music business is that they try to use people and they try to finesse people, and they don't build on relationships. Relationships are very important because the same people you see on the way up, the same people you see on the way down. Of course, we've all heard that, but it is true. You know, I've seen people touching the sun that now they can't even fill a 100-person room, and you know, it's because maybe they weren't cool. Maybe people that helped them, they kind of crapped on once they started blowing up. And I think it's important to always, you know, show love to people that helped you out early on, and form relationships. If you tell somebody you're going to do something, do it. You know, and just because this person isn't hot right now, don't ever count them out, and don't think you're bigger than anybody else. You know, always talk to people, and if you know, don't lie, don't try to, you know, undercut people and try to do deals on the side, and just be honest, be a good person, have integrity. You know, don't take money for posts. We've never taken money for posts. We don't do that. You know, and I think that's lasted longer. Yeah, we could have made a quick buck, and we've had people offer us thousands of dollars for posts, but we never took it because, for what? Then your credibility's ruined. And then, you know, you could be out, you could be done, and, you know, just be a good person, make good decisions, treat people kindly, say please and thank you. I think a lot of that goes a long way, and we just built a lot of good relationships over the years, and you know, that's kind of just where it starts.
Fourth row back to your right.
Hi, my name is Paige. I have my own blog, but it's still generated on WordPress, and also I don't have a logo yet. How important it is to have a logo and to have your own domain?
Very important. And WordPress is actually a very good platform to use. We've been using it. We started out on Blogspot in '07, and I don't know how it looks now, but it was fakeshortdrive.blogspot.com, and it didn't have the functionality, but I say most of the big blogs that you read are run on WordPress. They may not look like it, but a lot of them are. There's a lot of great functionality on there. And a logo is great. I mean, that's branding 101, you know. I think a lot of people, when they see the Fake Short Drive sticker or they see the logo, even though we've cleaned it up and changed it a little bit over the years, I think they recognize it. I mean, look at the apple behind you. I mean, it's glowing. I mean, that, you know, you recognize that worldwide. I think having a good logo is very important, just so people, when they see it, even if they don't necessarily register, they just see what it is and they can associate it with something. So, you know, if you don't have one yet, I wouldn't rush it, but just make sure it's good.
We have another question all the way in your back left, please. Corner.
How you doing? I'm Cheryl Love from the South Side. I was wondering, like, you know, since you have a new radio show, like, do you feel like your blog is going to be able to coexist with it as strong, or do you feel like it's going to suffer?
No, you can't, because the blog is the vessel. Without the blog, Fake Short Drive as a brand doesn't exist. You know, we just have to manage that and continue to create content, because, you know, a lot of people have started blogs and then have possibly gone on to do other things. They kind of let that sit there, but I still think that's what put us in the game. I think it's our most valuable asset. You know, the dynamics of blogging and the internet are changing, especially with the ad blocking that's going to happen on the new iPhone, and so, you know, things are going to change in the blog world. How, I'm not sure, but, you know, people adapt. Just like people say, okay, you know, the music industry's dead, you know, the MP3 is going to kill it, but, you know, I think the music industry's just figuring it out now, and I think, you know, streaming is going to be, once they figure out the streaming thing, there's, you know, people are they're gonna live like they did in the early 2000s, 90s again, hopefully. But we can't let the blog fade away. I mean, that's still our most important asset. So no, we just have to work extra hard now.
Third row center.
Hello, my name's Brandon, big fan.
Thank you.
With your original mission statement of providing hip-hop exposure to underrepresented artists in Chicago and then growing that to the Midwest, where do you see, with all of the growing of your business, what is your vision of the Chicago hip-hop game and the Midwest hip-hop game for the next 5-10 years or so?
Where do I see it going? I think you're going to continue to see a lot of stars. You know, I think there's going to be more stars to emerge. I think love Chief Keef or hate Chief Keef, he kicked the door down for the market. You know, a lot of people hate him, don't like his content, but if it wasn't for him, the spotlight wouldn't have been thrust upon the city. And I think luckily, a lot of people were at the right place with the right sound, with the right message, at the right time to go on and do their thing. But I don't think it's done. You know, after 2012, a lot of people were kind of putting a death sentence on the scene. They're like, Chicago's done. After these guys come out, it's a wrap. But then 2013, here comes Chance, bam, another one. Then it's like 2014, here comes Vic Mensa, here comes Mick Jenkins, here comes Tink, here comes Bibby and Herb and Dirk, and, you know, people are continuing to emerge. There's a lot of talent that still hasn't broken through necessarily nationally. I think, you know, the scene as a whole, it needs, you know, more people staying here. So I think it's good that a lot of these young guys aren't necessarily fleeing to the coast. It's easy, you know, when you get money and fame, you want to go to LA. Of course, it's amazing. It's beautiful. Weather's nice. It's a land of opportunity, and you know, it's just fun to be when you're young. But, you know, and then people used to go to New York, you know, so people want to flee to the coast, but I think you've seen the trend of a lot of these guys, if they're not touring, they stay local. And that's good, and that feeds the economy, and that gives jobs to other people that necessarily wouldn't be able to work in the music business. Because as you know, it's a tough way to make a living. People are starving. So, you know, I see more success. I see younger artists continuing to emerge out of everywhere. I see different sounds. I see the merging of the different sounds. And I see, you know, these other markets that kind of haven't had a voice and haven't had a real movement to kind of push forward and have some real success. The Midwest is, you know, the South used to complain about being the most underserved region, but I think the Midwest absolutely has more so than any other region in hip hop. And hopefully, if everything falls into place, we can have our moment as a region. But, you know, easier said than done.
Third row to your left. My name's Stephanie, and
Hey.
I do PR for a local Chicago artist. And right now, we're having the difficulty of branching away from the Chicago scene and trying to make it a little bit more of a national appeal. My question is, how do you really make it a national appeal and make your artist into something more of a superstar?
Again, I think it starts with the fans. You know, a lot of these guys, it was a tough sell trying to get them on the blogs early on. But once people see that you have a real thing and a real movement, like I said, bloggers do not want to be last. They don't want to be the last to hop on a trend. So if they see something happening, or they take a chance on you, and they see the traffic is happening, dude, they'll be your best friend. They'll be knocking down your door for whatever reason. That helps. Of course, having a cosign from a bigger artist or being a part of a crew helps. I mean, that's an automatic entry in, you know. A lot of people have benefited from that. And a lot of people have benefited from signing to a label. You know, people like Story Break, such and such has signed with Universal or Def Jam or Atlantic or Warner or whatever. That helps. But I think, I can't reiterate this enough, building a real fan base is the most important thing for an aspiring artist. Because once you have that, everything else will fall into place. And at that point, you can kind of be like, I don't really need you guys. Thank you for adding a little garnish to what I have, you know, my meal, but I don't really need you.
Third row to your right.
Hey, my name is Sketch God. I'm a producer for Team Green. What up? I was wondering, how do you find new content for your blog now? You said you hate being late on stuff. Your blog is so big. Are you still doing groundwork on the front lines? Like,
Absolutely.
Do you still go to Reggie's? Like,
Absolutely. Still post every day. Still looking for hot new talent. Still looking for, you know, new things that can catch the eye. You know, we look for things that are different. You know, there's so many rappers and there's so many people vying for your attention. You have to be different. You have to offer something else that maybe somebody hasn't done yet. And I know they say no idea is original and there's nothing new under the sun, but there are ways to set yourself apart. You know, with a producer, find a unique sound. Don't try to do the same thing Metro Boom is doing. Don't try to do the same thing, you know, whoever else is doing, whatever other hot producer is out there, TM88, whatever. Don't do what they're doing. Do your own thing. Just create your own lane. Make people come to you. And you know, as a producer, I would also say, find an artist and work with them and create a sound. Creating a sound is so important. If you look at the successful producers, they are people that have created their own sound and it doesn't sound like anybody else. And I think just getting with one artist and molding them and say, hey, look, let's do this together, and then stay in the course. You know, don't say, okay, well, I'm a producer, but now I don't really like that. I'm not that famous. I'm kind of in the background. I want to be the rapper. No, stick to what you're good at and focus on that. And I think that's a good start.
Fifth row to your left.
Andy, what's up, it's Mig? I'm kind of interested in podcasting, so I was wondering if you could talk about that, if you think there's a lot of white noise, or if you think that there's an opportunity there, and then also if you could talk more about like your business model with Fake Shore. As you were talking, it kind of strikes me that you have a lot in common with the artists that you cover, in the sense that you call the blog like a vessel, right? So for a lot of, I mean, that's your content. For a lot of artists, their content is their vessel, and then they find ancillary revenue streams, whether it's, you know, events or merchandise. So can you just talk about that and what's in store for the future in addition to the radio show?
Okay, first question was, what was the first question again?
Podcasting.
Podcasting, right. Podcasts are great. The only issue with podcasts right now is that everybody's doing them, right? There's so many. We used to have a podcast. It was called Disrespectful Radio. I don't know if any of you guys listen to that. We did that in 2012. I did it with David Drake, who's another Chicago journalist, and then Ernest Wilkins, who used to be at the Red Eye. And it was kind of like wide open at the time. There was some podcasts, but now it's like the market is saturated. There's a lot of people doing podcasts. And hip hop, I mean, you have to compete with people like Elliot Wilson and B-Dot from Rap Radar, who have a really successful podcast. You have Combat Jack, who is great, who finds great content. And there's so many people vying for your attention. If you are to start one, you know, make sure that it's dope and make sure you're doing something that's different than everybody else. And really, 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 you know, find good guests, find good people to host it with, and don't just try to do the same old thing, man. And because you know, people want to try to fire up the Disrespectful Radio podcast again, but the market is just so saturated right now. It's kind of tough. So, you know, if we would do it, I would want to do it on a bigger platform than just, you know, trying to put it on SoundCloud. But I think it's worth a try because you never know. That's the thing about everything. You never know. You know, it can take off quick and people might like it. So, you know, finding your niche. That's the first question. Second question was about the business model. You know, ad revenue is definitely up there, and then corporate partnerships. Corporate partnerships have been the best thing that we've done. Like I said, we've worked with Hennessy and Red Bull and Heineken and Adidas, and you know, finding brands to align with, and you know, doing events, doing concerts, things of that nature. That is, you know, it's not one big bowl that you know eat from. It's a lot of different ones. So having a lot of different things, and it's hard. You have to hustle, and you have to sacrifice a lot of stuff. So you know, I used to like to go out a lot. I don't do that anymore. I can't. I don't have time. You know, I have a kid as well, so you know my time is very valuable. So time management is everything, and trying to figure out how to live my life, do my family life, and then my work life, because it's like my work life consumes so much time. But you know, I still work like I just got in the game, and I'm hungry still. And you know, you got to do something that you love, because that hunger will never leave you if you really do what you love. And I don't necessarily think this is work, because I'd be doing it as a hobby anyway. I'm just very fortunate that I can, and you know, I work hard so I can continue to do it.
Straight ahead in the back.
Barber.
Stu.
So someone asked me this earlier, so I just want to throw this at you. For a new artist, what are some components that they can do that you can tell them maybe to get a buzz, to create a buzz, if you're brand new spanking? Like, what are some key pointers you can give them?
I think being professional is great. Taking this seriously, you know, if you really want to do it, you know, go to a studio. You see Mike Colari on Soundscape back there. Go to his studio. Go to somebody's studio and record. Get it mixed. Get it mastered. Get real pictures taken. Link up with a real artist to create your artwork, front, back, cover. Treat it like a job. You know, I know everybody wants to swag out and go pop bottles at the club and buy Jordans and Balmain jeans and do all this stuff, and that's great. But make sure, if you're really trying to do this, make sure your product is good. I get stepped to so often, and the product is crap. It's like, dude, you just recorded this on your laptop, and that's fine that it's there, and it's fine if you can't afford it. It's not easy, but invest in yourself. Invest in taking that next step to make it sound good. Do a photo shoot. That's what I say. If you guys are young, a lot of you guys are young, man. You have access. If you're in college, you're in high school, you have access to a lot of people who are aspiring directors, aspiring photographers, aspiring graphic designers. Build a team. Link up with those people. Utilize that, and put everybody together. The best example I can give of that was GBE and Chief Keef and those guys when they popped in 2012. They had it all figured out. They were like, I don't want to be the rapper. I'll shoot a video. Okay, that's D Gaines. Well, I don't want to be a rapper. I'll just make the beats. Okay, that's Young Chop. Well, I'll be the rapper. And then that's Dirk, and that's Reese, and that's Keith. And I don't know if that was by design or just by accident, but you had everybody playing their role at the time, firing on all cylinders, and the chemistry was there, and it was just this amazing thing. And yes, there was a great backstory behind it that helped sell it and turn it into something bigger than that, but I think that starts there. I think young artists need to take it really seriously and invest in yourself. It's expensive. Not a lot of people have, a lot of money to do it, but take it like a job. I know people that work a full-time job just so they can rap, and that's fine. But, get out there, touch the people. One thing that I was really impressed with that I saw Chance do early on when he was like 18 was when he had a concert, he went to every high school. He went to every high school in town and sold tickets to his show hand to hand. Most people are just like, oh, you know what? We're going to tweet the link. We're going to tweet the link. I want to put the link on my... But is that really engaging with the fans? Is that interaction? No, go out there, get in front of the people's face. Stop being too cool. Everybody's too cool. Get out there, touch the fans, embrace the people. If you're at a show, don't be spending your whole time trying to be cool and get backstage so you can be seen and stand on stage. No, if you know that you have fans in the audience, go out there and steal those fans. Steal them from the people that are there. This is a savage game. Go out there and treat this like this is what you want to do and that you have no competition. But I mean, you have to slay your competition and treat it like a job. That's about it. Does that cover it? Okay.
Fifth row to your left.
How's it going, Andrew? My name is Jordan, at Air Jordan 773. I was reading an
for
article. Thank you. I was reading an article in the Tribune and said that you do like artist consulting and music consulting as well. I just want to know how that opportunity was presented to you.
That doesn't really, we don't really do that anymore.
Not in particular.
But the artist consulting thing is good, and I would prefer to do it with somebody that was already like established or on a label, because usually it's people that might want to hire you just so you can get their music on other blogs. That's what it comes down. It's like, hey man, can I hire you to help out with my project? Yeah, what I really want is just you to get my stuff on Complex and Two Dope Boys and Fader. So that's kind of the wrong way to go about it. So we don't really do a lot of artist consulting. We dabbled in artist management, but don't really do that anymore. But doors always open on that.
Another one to your left over here.
Sure.
Hey, how's it going, Drew? My name is 3 a.m.
Hey.
First of all, I just want to applaud you. You know what I'm saying? I know, like, that's awesome to be able to go from that in 07, you know what I'm saying, to being here. Michigan Avenue.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? But my main question was just, like, the grind is tough. You know what I'm saying? It's, like, it's gritty. And, like, you say you didn't have a family, well, you didn't have kids at first, and, like, girlfriend and soon-to-be wife at the time just was like, all right, go ahead and do it. So, like, when it gets, like, really tough, when it's like, okay, when are the sponsorships are going to start coming and all those different type of opportunities, like, what's kind of your ethos that like kept fueling that passion and that drive to just keep going even when it got really tough?
I just didn't want to lose. I'm very competitive. I loved it. This is what I believed that I was meant to do. And I was going to figure out a way to do it no matter what. It wasn't easy and it was tough. It was very difficult. There are times that you want to quit. There's still times that you might want to quit now. It's like, man, this is a lot. It's stressful, and it can be tough.